Hi, learners. You are welcome. My name is Sarah Ewisiwa Cranton. I am so excited to be with you. In today's lesson, we are going to look at Roman numerals. And it's for Basic 5. Let's go through the objectives for today. By the end of the lesson, be able to write Roman numerals up to C, which is 100. End of the lesson, you should be able to write Roman numerals up to C. Before that, our homework I gave you in the previous lesson. Let's look at the answers. So these are the answers to the previous homework I gave you, and I hope you did it. Very good. Just cross-check and see if you had everything correct. All right, now today's lesson, Roman numerals. Let's go through the of Roman numerals. And the first one is I. We have V. We have X. We have L, C, D, and then M. These are the characters or the symbols for Roman numerals. I, V, X, L, C, D, and then M. We use the alpha numerals, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So let's look at the characters of Roman numerals, or the symbols. We are going to write it in Hindu Arabic numerals. So for the Roman numeral I, it stands for 1. And V is 5. X is 10. L is 50. C is 100, 100. D is 500. And M is 1,000. So for the Roman I as 1 in Hindu Arabic numerals, I is 1, V is 5, X is 10, L is 50, C is 100, D is 500, and M is 1,000. Just look at it, write something down before we move on. Okay, the Roman numerals 1 to 30. As you can see on your screen, we have 1. The Hindu Arabic numerals are here, and these are the Roman numerals. Good. Now, I is equal to 1, or I stands for 1. We know 2. We can repeat the I. We have I. We have I, which is 3. And remember, we said we can't repeat the numbers. The maximum we can repeat it is 3 times. So we can't write I for 4. So the 4 is going to be IV. And the rule of subtraction, IV, we are going to subtract the 1 from 5 to give us 4. Now 5 is V. Rule of addition, you add the bigger value to the smaller value. So we have VI, which is 6. 5 plus 1, and that is 6. We have VII, which is 7. We have V, which is 5, and then 2 of the I's, which is 2. So 5 plus 2 will give us 7. 8, we have VIII. VIII. V is 5, and we know I to be 1. If a number is repeated, or if a number is written thrice, we multiply that number by 3. So this one, we have written it 3 times. So we're going to multiply it by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. Plus 5 will give us 8. We have IX. We have to subtract the smaller value from the bigger value. So 10 minus 1 will give us 9. We have X, which we know as 10. Let's move on. 11, which is IX, the rule of addition. We add to the smaller value. This is at the right of the bigger number, which is 10, and this is 1. So we add to the smaller number. So 10 plus 1 will give us 11. We have XII, which is 12. 10 plus 2, which will give us 12. And then XIII, it follows like that. When we get to 14, we can't write 4 of the I's because the rule does not permit us to do so. So it's going to be changed. We have 10 here. IV. This is at the left side of the bigger value, which is 5. We're going to subtract the 1 from the 5. So 4 plus 10 will give us 14. So 15 is going to be XV. We have 10 plus 5, which will give us 15. My learners, I hope you are following. That's good. Now 16 is XVI. XVI. We know X to be 10, VI. Now a smaller value at the right of a bigger value we add. So 6 plus 10 will give us 16. And 17, XVI. We know this is a bigger value and we have a smaller value to the right. So XVI will give us 17. And it follows when we get to 3 of the I's, we can't continue. It has to change because the rule does not permit us. Good. So 19, XIX to the left. So we subtract the smaller value from the bigger value. So X, which is 10, minus, we have 10. Then when you come here, we subtract the I, which is 1, from the 10, which will give us 19. Now 20. We have XX. 21, XXI. 22, XXII. 23, XXIII. Immediately we get to 24. We can't repeat the I 4 times. So it has to change. So 24 will give us XX. Now, when you come here, we have to subtract the smaller value from the bigger value, which will give us 4 here. When we add it to the 20, we'll get 24. And then 25, we have XXV. We know X to be 10, so 2 of the X, 20 plus 5, 25. We have XXVI. That's a 6 plus 10, which will give us 26. XXVII, 27. XXVIII will give us 28. And then 29, XXIX. You know why we have the IX? Because we can't write the I over here 4 times. The maximum we can write is 3. So when we get here, it has to change. So 20 plus 9 will give us 29. And then 30, XXX. 10 of the X. When we multiply 10 by 3, we will get 30 because we have 3 of the X over here. 1, 2, 3. So it's 30. Rules to write Roman numerals. Rules to write Roman numerals. The first one is repetition of Roman numerals. Addition. Repetition of Roman numerals means addition. What does this mean? For example, we have I to be 1. In the Arabic numeral, I is 1. So they are saying repetition of Roman numerals means addition. That should tell us that the II over here, when we want to write the value, it will be 1 plus 1. I is 1. And it has been repeated over here. We have 2 I's. 1 plus 1, which will give us 2. So II is 2. Let's take another example. X. We said X is 10. Now it has been repeated over here. XX. It means addition. So we will add the 2x. 1 is 10. So we will add to be 10 plus 10. So XX will give us 20. So wherever you see XX, it stands for 20 in the hint. There is something I want you to know over here. When repeating Roman, it says only I, C, and then M can be repeated. I, C, let me write it here for you. I, C, X, and M can be repeated. The rest letters, so we have I, C, is addition. To write 10, you know V to be 5, so it's going to be VV. No way, learners, you can't repeat V. And L and D, you can't repeat them, but I repeat them. Very good. Rule number 2. If a smaller numeral is written after a larger numeral, it means addition. If a smaller numeral is written after a larger numeral, it means addition. I have examples over here. We have VI. VI. V is bigger than I. V is bigger than I. Look at where I is. it is written after V. So VI, the value of VI will be 5 plus 1 because V is 5 and I. So we will write it as 5 plus 1, which will give us 6. Another example. VIII. VIII. Let's look at the symbol after V. It is I, 3. So V is 5 and I is 1. And we have 3 over here. So we're going to add everything. So 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 1, 7. 7 plus 1, 8. If a smaller numeral is written after a larger numeral, it means addition. So we have L and then X. L and then X. We know L to be 50 and then X. L is bigger than X. So it will be 50, which is L, plus the smaller numeral, which is 10. So it will give us 60. Let's look at the last one over here. XV. X is 10, V is 5. So X is 10, then you add. Since the number after X is smaller, we're going to add. So V is 5. And 10 plus 5 will give us 15. Therefore, Roman numeral XV is equal to 15. Let's look at another rule. I hope you are jotting something down. Rule 3. When a smaller numeral is written before a larger numeral, it means subtraction. Take notes of this. When a smaller numeral used over 2 is different from this. So let's take an example. IV. I is 1 and V is 10. And I is smaller than. I has been written before V. It means subtraction. When you see this, it will give us, you subtract the smaller numeral from the larger one. So we have 5, which is the larger numeral, minus 1. I over here is 1. So 5 minus 1 will give us 4. So when you see IV in the Hindu Arabic numeral, it is 4. Because of rule number, when a smaller numeral is written before a larger numeral, it means how you should do it. Let's look at this as well. XL. So it means we are going to subtract X from L. And we know L to be 50. And X is 10. We have to subtract it from 50. So we're going to have 40. Roman numeral XL stands for 40 in the Hindu Arabic numeral. There are exceptions. So let's take notes. A, L, and D are never subtracted from any number. You can't subtract L and D from any number. That is the rule. You have to take note. So I want you to write these down. Write them down. V and D are never subtracted from any number. Okay, the next one. I subtracted from V and X only. Like IV is 5 minus 1. So we subtracted I from V. So the I can be subtracted from V and X only. The rest of the characters or the symbols, you can't subtract I from them. Let's look at the next one. Subtracted from L and C only. Please take notes. X can be subtracted from, and the last exception, C can be subtracted from D only. C can be subtracted from D and M only. Okay, now rule number 4. We are still on Roman numerals. 4. We are learning how to write. Very good. Rule 4. Smaller numerals written between two larger numerals are always subtracted from the larger numerals immediately following them. I'll give you an example for you to understand rule number 4 very well. So example, XIV. So what does it always subtracted from the larger numeral immediately following it? So I is here. Which numeral follows I? It is V. So we are going to subtract I from V. So it's going to be, we know X to be 10. So, and after 10, the rest of the numerals are small. So we're going to add. And then we know V to be 5. So we must subtract 1 from 5. So this is how it will be. The large numeral following I is 5. So that is why we subtracted 1 from 5. So we have 10 plus 5 minus 1 is 4. The numeral XIV will give us 14. I hope you are following the rule. Rule number 4. I is in between, and rule 4 says numeral follows the smaller one immediately. That is where we should subtract the smaller one from. So XIV, we have 10 and then 5 minus 1. This is 1, this is 5. We must subtract I from V. So 5 minus 1. And it will give us 4. 10 plus 4 is 14. So XIV will give us 14. Please write the example down. It will serve as a guide for you. Okay. Now, let's write the Roman numerals for the following numbers. Write the Roman numerals for the following number. 77 over. This is a Hindu Arabic numeral. We are going to write the Roman numeral for this number, 77. So 77, let's expand this number. 77, we can have 70 plus 7. 70 plus 7. And this 72, we can have 50 plus 20 plus, and this 72, we can write it as 5 plus 2. I hope you are following. And it as 70 plus 7. It is still 77. And the over here, 50 plus 20. We can write it as 5 plus 2. So 70 plus 7 is 77. 50 plus 70, 50 plus 20 plus 5 plus 2 is also 77. Now, we know the symbol for 50. So that symbol is L. And then 20. We know 10 to be X. We can repeat 10. So it's going to be XX. So this one is for 20. We are not done. And then 5. Symbol. It is V. Now 2. We know I to be 1. So we can repeat I. So it's going to be I. Now this is the symbol for Roman. This is the Roman numeral for 77. LXVII is equal to 77 in the Hindu Arabic numeral. Learners, let's do last example. 98. Let's expand it. 98, we can have 90 plus 5 plus 3. It will give us 98. Let's check and see. 90 plus 5, 95 plus 3, 98. Let's look at something here. We know the symbol for 100. And the rule, one of the rules says, if a smaller number is written before a larger number, it means subtraction. So C is 100. We can write X over here. So this 90, let's cancel this and write it as 100 minus 10 plus 5 plus 3 will give us 98. 100 minus 10 is 90, plus 5, 95, plus 3, 98. So we can write 90 as C. And then 5 as B. We have 3 over here. We can repeat I 3 times. So I. Now 8 in row give us XC VIII. Please write the example down. Write this one down for it to guide. We are using the rules. Okay. Now we are going to write the number or the Hindu Arabic numeral for the following Roman numerals. We have LX VIII and then XCIV. Let's look at something here. This is 50. L is 50. Now the next number is X VIII. You see, it follows like that. This one is bigger than this. This is bigger than this, so we can add them. L is 50. So let's write our 50 plus X is 10 plus, we know V to be 5 plus 5 plus, we have I, 3 of the I's, so we know it to be 1 plus 1 plus 1. So 50 plus 10 is 60 plus 5. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. 60 plus 5 is 65 plus 3 will give us 68. So the Roman numeral X, LX, VIII is 68. LX, VII is 68. Now, let's do the last one. We have XCIV. Let's look at the larger number over here. It is C, which is 100. Now, before 100, we have a smaller number over there, which is X, and we know X to be 10. What does the rule say? When a smaller number is written before a larger number, it means subtraction. So if this is 100, this is 10, we're going to subtract 10 from 100. So it will be 100